Welcome back to our YouTube channel, guys. I know this isn't how you're accustomed to seeing Danny and I on a vlog, but today we wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about some culture shocks that we have experienced ever since we moved back to Mexico, since we lived in the United States for 23 years. And
I moved back.
well, okay. Danny was deported. It's not funny, but we're allowed to joke amongst ourselves. And I came back voluntarily, kind of. But some of you know my story. Maybe Danny at one point will share his story. We don't know yet.
Maybe one day.
Maybe someday. But you have a couple of culture shocks that you've experienced since we moved back, or since we came back to Mexico, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There was some. It wasn't. I always like to clarify this because it's always something that I did find it fascinating. Was because remember we were talking with Mario, but for me it wasn't as bad because I came from being
Locked up.
So I was in immigration and it was not the best place to be, obviously.
Yeah.
So for me it went from living in the U.S., being in immigration for 6 months to then moving to Mexico. So I think the
transition.
Yeah, it was a lot different for me because it was it felt like it was like a gradual, from U.S. kind of. I mean, I don't want to sound bad, but I was locked up with a lot of Mexicans. So I spent 6 months with Mexicans that are from Mexico and moved to the States or whatever and been deported. So they're accustomed to living in Mexico. So I hung around them a lot and it was kind of a slow transition for me from there to there. So for me, but once I got here, obviously, you hear things, but then once you actually get here,
you realize a couple of different things.
One thing I realized, and I realized it while I was in immigration too, and when I got here, it's there's no personal space. It's not as prominent as it is in the States. Here, people will stand right next to you and you have no idea what they're doing. But it's I personally I hate it. I hate not being close to people that I don't know. So when we're standing in line at a grocery store, you're just looking, you're just walking around or you're just looking at the beach. Someone will literally just come and stand right next to you and you're just for me, I always get really uncomfortable and I kind of
the grocery stores is definitely one of the things that I've experienced where I've felt people bump into me and I'll feel like it's an accident, but no, they're actually just standing beside me.
Yeah, I hate it, especially at stores. It's something that just always bugs me because when you have a big cart and we used to grocery shop and they'd stand right behind you and it's you're wondering what are you doing? What are you doing, dude?
We're not accustomed to that because in the States everybody's very in their own space and keeping distance from each other. So I definitely see how that's a culture shock. For me, one of the things for me, we decided to do 3 and 3, but one of the things for me that was a culture shock is how accepting Mexico is of children. And what I mean by that is, a quick example that I can give you is, I remember within my first couple weeks here in Mexico, I took the kids to the mall, to where we were today. And Sebastian started to throw a fit. And I'm talking full on, just screaming, loud, crying. And it's natural for me to try to calm him down because when we used to live in the States, people would give you ugly looks if your kid was acting up in public and you couldn't quiet him down, right? It happened all the time when we would go to the mall in Virginia and things like that. And I remember vividly that a lady approached me and she tapped me on the shoulder because she saw that I was trying to calm him down. Yeah, no, here. Yeah. She came up to me and she tapped me on the shoulder and she said, "No te preocupes, déjalo que llore." Let him cry. Nothing's gonna happen. And I just remember feeling a sigh of relief because I started to realize that when I started to look around, like nobody was giving me ugly looks. Everybody was just doing their own thing because it's just normal for kids here to be kids and act like kids in public spaces. Nobody's trying to get you to hush up your child or giving you ugly looks. It's the polar opposite. And I've experienced that in parks and situations like that. You had a story one time where a kid came up to you and you told me one time, right? That
Which one?
when you were lifting up.
Oh, yeah. So little Danny likes to hang on the monkey bars. So I was picking him up and just letting him hang. And this little kid, about his age, probably a little older than baby Danny, approached me and he wanted to do it. And like, if there's one, like, I do not mess with other people's kids.
Right.
Like I like no.
You don't do that.
Yeah, like no. Like I'm not gonna like I have to get verbal approval from a parent before I like, because I've had like people walk up to baby Danny and like pick him up and do all these, like actually like pick him up and hold him. I'm just like to me like that like to me that's weird. But
Yeah.
like so this little kid walks up to me and was like he wanted to do it. So like I paused and I like looked at him and I asked him like, hey, like where's your mom or your dad, like. And he just like pointed that way, and I like looked back, and I just like she kind of just gave me the nod, like, yeah, like go ahead. And I was like, okay,
Okay.
like I guess I'm gonna play with this little kid too. So I like picked him up, and I started doing the same thing with one, like just alternating. And little Danny and him started playing. So like everything I did with baby Danny, I was doing with the kid. I like with the other little kid, like on the swings. I would push baby Danny on the swing. Little Danny would get tired, and the other little kid would say, oh, like my turn. So I felt responsible for him, but I was like, at the same time, I'm like, oh, well, you know, the moms said it was okay. But
Yeah.
For me, it was really, like I said, like it's not that I like have anything against other little kids, it's just like I don't want the responsibility of a stranger, like I'm having a stranger, like if that little kid fell and I didn't catch him or fell on the swing, like I don't want that responsibility. So I'm like very skittish around, like, doing other things with other little kids. But
And recently, because Danny plays basketball, recently, well, baby Danny's here visiting, and he doesn't have anybody to watch him when he has games, and his teammates were like, just bring him.
Yeah, I texted the group chat because we had a basketball game. I was like, hey, I'm not gonna be able to make it. You know, the game was late. I think it was at 9, and I was like, I don't have anyone to like watch him. And they're like, oh, bring him. Like we'll watch him together as a team. And I was like, I'll just go to the game with baby Danny and like sit on the bench. That way, maybe he can get like comfortable with the guys, and next time he'll want to stay with them, maybe. And so I took him, but I also took my stuff just in case, like I could play. And he got there, and like a bunch of the guys like shook his hand. He usually he's kind of like a little shy at first, but he kind of just walked up to him and was like dabbing everyone up, you know. And then like they like bought him there's a little convenience store at the game, so like they bought him chips and they bought him like drinks and everything, and like they just kind of like accepted him into the bench, and he was playing with his cars, and like the people that were on the bench like would play with him and like interact with him and keep him company. He loved it. And then every day after that, he kept asking me like, oh, are we gonna go to the basketball game? I'm like, I only have one a week, so like we have to wait.
You have to wait.
So he loved it. He loved like the fact that all of the guys like played, like they accepted him in. It wasn't like he's just bringing his kid, you know. Right. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, oh, bring him down, like we'll watch him together. And so
embracing children.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So like I can still go play basketball. I mean, I still was a little nervous when I was like playing, and he would like kind of start walking around a little bit. But I made sure like. But I mean, I trust the guys. I've known them for 2 years now, so it's not like they're like complete strangers to me. Right. I kind of know them all.
So that makes a difference.
Yeah, but it was definitely pretty cool. He loved it. He loved it. So I'm sure he's like every time I tell him like, hey, I got a basketball game. Like I had one Wednesday, but obviously I didn't feel like going. But when I told him about it, he was like, oh yeah, let's go. And
he was amped.
Oh. Yeah, he was amped about it.
Well, that's another culture shock for me, is just the way children are embraced and looked out after. And yeah, when you take your kids out to public and they're throwing a fit, nobody gives you ugly looks. And that's a parent, that's a big relief, man, because kids are, how do you say it? They're what is it?
Unpredictable?
Unpredictable when you go out with them. But what's another culture shock that you've experienced?
Like I don't know if it's because of where we lived in the States, but like the social life that people have.
Oh yeah.
Like being able, like there isn't a playground, a basketball court, soccer field, volleyball field, or volleyball court that's not being used in the afternoon.
Yep.
Obviously I live by like one of the nicer complexes, so that place is always full. But I mean, you go into like the other little parks all around the city, like playgrounds are always being used. The basketball / like little soccer fields, they're always being used. I mean, it's very common to be able to go out and like just, if you feel like playing basketball, you'll find people to play basketball with, soccer, volleyball.
Even the plazas, like I don't know if you've noticed, but like every colonia has like a little plaza where people set up and they sell snacks or whatever.
Yeah, like
stands. Always, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. It doesn't have to be the weekend. It doesn't have to be a Friday or a Saturday night. Even during school nights, people will go out and socialize and spend quality time with each other, because one thing that's very prominent here in Mexico is family. I think it's very family oriented. It's
always being able to go out and there'll always be people at parks, always.
Yeah.
Never fails.
Yeah, and that's cool. Like for somebody like you, I mean, I like to play sports too, but somebody like you that lives by the stadium and you like to play basketball and stuff, you know that you could go there every afternoon and find somebody to play with, because there's always going to be people playing.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I got my basketball. That's how I joined the basketball team. And then the first day I went, started shooting around. They're like, "Hey, are you on the team?" I was like, "No." I was like, "I just got here not too long ago."
Play pretty good, man.
They're like, "Oh, why don't you?" And he's like, "I'll give you like a tryout with the team or whatever." And I was like, "Okay." And I've been with the team ever since. Been two seasons now. So
that's funny that you say that, because that actually takes me to my second culture shock that I experienced, and is how kind people are in Mexico. How incredibly kind people are here. And maybe again, it has to do with where we lived. But when we used to go, where I used to go to the grocery store, Connor Supermarket, there were some people that would never smile at you, would never say good morning to you, would never acknowledge you. People walking by, making eye contact, just passing in silence. And I think from what I've posted on social media, a lot of people tend to agree with me that in the United States, the culture is very, how do you say it? Individualistic. People are like very to themselves. I don't know what the proper term is, but people are very to themselves. Whereas here in Mexico, talking about like the personal space, and it goes hand in hand with how friendly people are. When you make eye contact with somebody, it's almost like a mandatory buenas tardes, buenos dias.
Yeah.
And then as you get to know people within your neighborhood, you go to your local store, like the guys across the street, they know me by name now. They know a little bit about our family. People actually get the time to get to know you, and it's not because they're nosy, it's just that togetherness that exists here in Mexico within its communities, with its own colonias. And for me, it was a huge culture shock to see how welcoming and warm people are here in Mexico. I'm sure you got plenty of stories that you can reference to that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like where I used to live, the little grocery store across the street, like they knew that baby Danny and his mom would go back and they'd come back and visit. So like when they didn't see him after, like I'd go in and like I would take him every now and then or whatever, but like they kind of caught on and they're like, "Oh, is he back in the States?" And they'd ask me about him, and then they're like, "Oh, well, when does he come back?" Like they were eager for him to come back, and I was like, "Oh, he comes back, and he'll be back in August." And they're like, "Oh, well, that's great. It's only a couple weeks from now, and they'd be so excited, like, and then I'd bring him in, and they'd be excited to see him.
Yeah.
Same with the carniceria, the guy that worked there. same thing with him. He'd always ask me like, "Hey, when's he coming to see you? When will they be here?" And I tell him like, "Oh, they'll be here in a month or whatever." And they're like, "Oh, it's getting close." Like they were so welcoming and like they like they, like you said, they got to know you and they like and it was always just
They embrace you.
yeah, they embrace you and it becomes so much easier because like when I used to go get like that's another thing like ordering. From a carniceria was also something that kind of was different for me because I've never you always just go get the packaging and walk out. So
I got a funny story about that.
That was weird, but like they make it easier because like once you get to know the person working there, like you don't feel dumb like asking them questions and stuff. But then once I moved to this new to the new apartment. I kept going to the same little store because I get him a daily little yogurt. And every time we go into that store, the lady that works there now in the mornings, she always gives him free stuff. She gives him agua frescas, ice cream, a yogurt, juice boxes, it's like every time. I remember like, for example, like him and I were sitting there and he was trying to argue with me. He's like, I want a juice, a yogurt, and a agua fresca. Coconut water, and I was like, no. I was like, let's get you a juice, and then maybe we'll come back and get a yogurt. And the lady was like hearing us talk, and she like walked over and she's like, what does he want? I was like, oh, he wants the coconut water, but she's like, oh, just take it. I go, what? She goes, let him take it. Like she's like, should I just take it? And I was like, are you sure? Like she's like, yeah. She took it out of the fridge, handed it to him, and he got his water, and I was like, all right, I guess he can have it, I guess.
You know what's another thing too? To add to that real quick, I wasn't gonna talk about this because it just crossed my mind, but how trusting people are here in Mexico. Like the amount of times I've gone across the street and I don't have, like my card doesn't work or I don't have enough cash and they're just like, just come back and pay. Just come back and pay later. And the first time that happened, I was like, what? I was like, what you mean come back and pay later?
Got like 300 pesos worth of stuff.
Yeah, he's like, just come back and pay later. I'm like, that's crazy, man. That's crazy how people just trust you because they trust that you'll be honest and you'll come back and you'll pay. But about the carniceria thing too is when I first got here, I remember too, because it was different for me as well. And I totally forgot that here in Mexico is like kilos and not pounds, right? So I went into the carniceria for the first time, and I was super nervous because I didn't know what I was about to say. I didn't know how to ask for anything. So I'm like, I didn't know you can ask by the weight, by the amount, like in pesos, or by the pieces. So I was just like, can I have 2 pounds, right? 2 pounds. And he kind of looked at me funny, and he's like, pounds? He's like, you mean kilos? And I was like, I kind of sat there. I sat there for a minute, and I was like, yeah, kilos. And he was like, 2, right? Because 2 kilos is like 4 pounds.
It's like 4.4 pounds or something.
He's like, 2 kilos? I was like, yeah, because I didn't want to be like, oh, my bad, man, I was wrong. I was like, yeah, you need 2 kilos. Damn. Bro, I walked out of there with like...
I don't think you ever told me
These
that.
bags of chicken, man. I had like 6 chicken breasts, 3 in each bag, dude. I was walking around with these big bags of chicken breasts, and I was just like, man, how embarrassing. But ordering from the carniceria.
That didn't happen to me. Because Naya actually was like, she was like, make sure you say kilos. They don't use pounds. They don't use miles. Like, it's not the same. So like, luckily I avoided that. But I remember like once I got to know the guy, and him and I would talk and all that. One day I was in there and it slipped my mind, and he was asking me like, oh, like how much did you weigh when you first got here? And I told him, I was like, oh, I was like 220 pounds. And he was like, he like stopped, and I was like, he was trying to do the math in his head because he was like trying to figure it. So he's like, all right. So, and I was like, kind of looking at him. He's like, how much is that in kilos? And I was like, I don't know. So I was like, I have no idea. I was like, over there they use pounds for like weight and everything. I was like, I have no idea. He's like, how much are you now? I was like, well, I know how much I am in pounds. But like at that point I was comfortable enough with him where it wasn't like total, but I felt dumb because like I was like, yeah, I weigh 220 pounds. And he just looked at me and was like trying to do the math, and I was like, yeah. But I mean, there were, like everyone, like, I've never been shamed for
Right.
for like I guess for who I am. I guess
Yeah.
you know from
Same here.
being in the States for so long. Like they'll ask you, oh, you're not like you're not originally from here, or where are you from? And I'll tell them like, oh, I'm like originally born in Mexico, but I was in the States for, and they're like, oh, okay, like, and they just like they're like, all right,
They
like,
just accept you for who you are.
yeah, they're just all right, no problem.
Yeah.
And so like luckily like I always use like every time we tried to do something new, like when baby Danny and I were here, like I always like would ask the guy at the carniceria or the lady like, hey, so like how do we do this? And they would explain it to me. I'd ask them for advice because I didn't want to show up and be like to where we were going, like be like, you know, feel dumb.
Yeah.
Because like another thing, like this is just something small, but like when you go to places like that, like there's no like some places like there's no official line, like there's no line you stand at to like order. Like you go to like the fancier places, yeah, people go.
Yeah.
But like if you go to like a little carniceria where like people are just standing around and they're like, "Who's next?" and you're just like, like
I don't know.
yeah. Sometimes I'll be even if I'm like one of the first people, like, I'll be the last one there because like everyone's being like it's like who's next, and like sometimes someone would like is in a hurry, so I'll be like, "Oh, can I just order real quick or whatever?" So I just like kind of stand there. I'm like, "Oh well, I'll just wait till everyone leaves and then I'll order my stuff." But yeah.
Oh, that's funny. You live and you learn. What's the third and last of your culture shocks?
How many people speak English? And not just like because where I live, yeah, there's a lot of
That's a good
Canadians and Europeans and Americans or people from the United States that live there, but like the amount of Mexicans that do know how to speak English and they speak it very well.
Yeah.
And
Our cousin's one of them.
yeah, our cousins are some that speak it. A lot of people, like when I first got there, and especially with like baby Danny around, like I'm trying to teach him Spanish so that way he's, you know, he can be fluent in both. But like sometimes like they'll ask him like, hey, like what's your name? They'll ask him in Spanish like, hey, what's your name? What's your name? And I'll have to tell him in English like, hey, tell him your name, and then I'll say it I'll say it in both. I'll say it in Spanish and then in English. That way he kind of understands what they're asking. And then once they hear me speak English, they'll look at him and then they'll speak to him in English.
That's crazy.
And it's like it's everyone. It's people from that work at like the little stores, people that work at carniceria, like everyone. Like I'll just be like, I remember I took him to the carniceria, the new one that I told you I found, and the guy at the other place knew a little bit of English, so he talked to him in English. And so when I was sitting there ordering what I was getting and trying to like get baby Danny to like listen to me, I told him, I was like, hey, come here, like, you know, in English. And the guy was like, oh, he speaks both. I'm like, he understands English and Spanish, but he kind of only speaks English right now.
Right.
I'm trying to get him to learn both, and the guy like started speaking to him in English. And it was just like, you know, and but yeah, the amount of people that live here that know how to speak English, that have been to the States, either visited or lived there for some time, like it's like I thought like you would have to, like I didn't think that I would use my English as much as I do going out, especially you know, I've met a lot of Canadians that I play basketball with and Americans that I play basketball with, so like I use my English a lot still, which I didn't think I would.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's why like when I was in immigration, I made it a point to like speak Spanish to them. Like I was like, oh, I'm not gonna ever meet these people again, so I was like, they can think I'm an idiot, but like I talked to them in English, in Spanish as much as I could, and then because I was like preparing myself, because like once they told me like, hey, you're gonna go back to Mexico, I was like, oh well, I was like, guess I gotta polish up my English or my Spanish before I get there. But yeah, the amount of people that speak English here is, but I mean, yeah, we are in a touristy area or whatever,
Yeah.
but I mean, you know, even then, like it's still impressive that so many people speak English and they speak it very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that even when I go to places like El Pitillal and Volcanes, we're very local Mexican Vallartenses that have lived here their entire life. It's not rare to hear somebody speaking English walking down the street, and it's just very normal. And I know it has to do with where we live, which is Vallarta, and it's a very touristy place. But like to his point, You think that when you come back to Mexico, you're not going to be using your English anymore, and you find out that no, actually, there's a lot of people that speak it here too.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. It was like a funny conversation we had about we'll speak English and we'll be comfortable speaking English in public, but it's in certain areas.
Yeah.
Like if we're in el centro,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, look, we can speak English and no one will look at us. But like if we're in the Pitillal or we're somewhere like where
Progreso.
yeah, you're like we're like whispering if we're talking in English, so like no one can hear us because it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you know.
Don't want to stand out.
Because it's like I think we made the joke like our two younger brothers, like they don't look as, I guess, Mexican as we do. So like it's hard for us to get away with it, to like speak English and for them to be like, oh, you know, they might be mixed or whatever. It's like, no, like
Not
we can't
us.
pass it off. Yeah, we look too Mexican like to do that. So like and I'm not saying Osmar Peter don't, but I'm just saying like they are like
They got
their
my mom's
complexion.
genes.
Yeah, their complexion.
Light skin.
They're they're light skinned, and like that's why I was like, man, if I just looked a little bit more like Osmar, like I wouldn't feel as bad like speaking in English when I go out, and but
Yeah.
but again, like no, like you know, you get a couple of people that kind of look at you weird, like what are they saying, like, you know. But other than that, it's like I've never been once told like, or like someone like confront me and say like, oh, why are you speaking English or this or that and the other. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know.
My third and last culture shock is the trash. And I always say that, man, because where we lived in the United States, we lived in a very, very clean county, very wealthy county. Everything was kept up, you know, fields, yards, people's homes. I mean, it was beautiful, right? In the sense of it was always clean. And I remember when I first got to Mexico, and I remember my first ride to Maggie's house, and I started to see piles of trash, just like mountains of trash in the road and stuff. And I was like, yo, what's going on? Because here in Mexico it's done very differently. In the States, you know, most people have their, and maybe it's just Puerto Vallarta, so I don't want to generalize, but here in Vallarta, people take out their trash, and I've showed it in a couple vlogs and shorts. You just place it out in the middle of the street, and the trash man goes by, the trash truck, they pick it up, and they throw it in the back, you know. But in the United States, you have trash cans, black trash cans, where you go and you put your trash in, and keeps it away from animals, keeps it away from cats and dogs, and then the trash truck comes, picks it up, throws it, dumps it over. But here it's not like that. Here people literally grab the trash off the streets and they throw them into the trash truck. So when I first got here and I saw these piles of trash, I was shook, because I was not accustomed to that. And I was like, whoa, man, like this is so different. But as time has progressed and time has passed, I've gotten very used to it now. And it seems normal now. It doesn't seem, you know, it doesn't seem like it's weird or it's different. It just seems normal, because again, you kind of, like you integrate yourself into the culture, into the life here, and things that at first seemed so strange and so different now are truly starting to feel like it's just normal, because it's our new home here. I don't know if you saw it the same way when you first
No, I did, because for me, I was like, the best way I can put it is like, if you ever, like when you were little, you would watch the documentaries on Animal Planet. It's like, oh, if you throw like the little animal, like throw a trash bag outside, it finds its way into the ocean, then the sea turtle eats it because it thinks it's just. So like in my mind, I always pictured, if I throw this plastic bag, I'm killing a turtle. Like that was always my mind. So I don't litter. I've always been against littering. That's why like when I've like thought about like going around and picking up trash, because like to me, like it really bothers me, because it's something that I'm like it's just like, for people that like, I've seen it all over the city, where like people are drinking bottled waters, cans, a lot of drinks sometimes are sold in bags, and they'll drink it and they're just like toss it on the ground and walk away. And like in my mind, like it just like burns a hole in my head, like how are you like doing it? Like how can you do that? Like I have a story, and I'm not gonna say names, but I remember we were out eating. We went to go get ice cream, and because I don't want to throw this person on the bus, but we were going to get ice cream. They put it in the little plastic bags, right? We're walking around and takes them out. Like we take the plastic, and I have mine in my hand. I'm like, I'm gonna find a trash can. I'm gonna put it where it goes. And the other person I was with, they take it out and they just kind of threw it on the ground. And I was just like, I'm not going to say what I said at the time, but I was like, what are you doing?
I can imagine what you said.
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing? They're like, what? I was like, there's trash everywhere. They're like, there's trash everywhere. I was like, yes, that doesn't mean like throw the, like, I was like, that's not what it means. And like, I got so mad in that moment because I was like, I know you. Like, I know, like, this isn't, like, I was like, yeah, I can't say what I said at the time, but yeah, I was so mad. And, like, I was mad for the rest of the day because I was like, how can someone do that? Like, how did you just, like, think that it's okay? Like, I was like, to me, it's something that really bothers me. It's always bothered me. But like you said, like, it has gotten easier to see it because you see it every day. Like, every day you go out, you see trash and all that stuff, and it's like, you get numb to it after a while, and you start thinking like, oh, it's just, you know, it's just the way that it is. And that's another thing, like, for me, another thing with like, with stray animals, like dogs and cats, like when I first got here, like it hurt, like, it still hurts, but like I see a dog and I'd immediately be like, all right, do I have money on me? Like, I'm gonna go buy it some food, give it some food, and like at the spot, like give it food, and like, and then after a while you kind of get numb to it, and you like I don't want to say that I don't do it anymore, but I don't feel like I do it as often as I used to, because it's like, now you're like, oh, like, yeah, you get numb to it after a while, and it's like, it's a crappy feeling. I mean, like, I never, now that I'm saying it out loud, it makes me feel worse, because I'm like, oh.
You're acknowledging it.
Yeah, but like, yeah, like with animals as well, it's another thing. Like, I guess it's common all over the world except in the U.S., where like like there's a problem in the U.S. with dogs, cats, and all other animals, but I don't think it's as like common as it is in other countries, like in Central South America and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's definitely a big thing here with stray dogs, but maybe someday we'll be wealthy enough to fix all the stray dogs in the streets. But yeah, I guess that does it for culture shocks here in Mexico. I mean, for what we've experienced, we've only been here for about 3 years. I mean, 2.5, give or take. I'm going on 3 years.
Two and some change.
But those are the kind of things that we have experienced here since we've come back. And when are you gonna start your
my YouTube
YouTube channel?
I don't know. I've been thinking about it, but
I've been telling him to start a YouTube channel just to start documenting his life. Because a lot of you have asked for him to do so, and I'm always the one like, come on, dude, just do it, just get yourself out there. Who cares what people think? Who cares what people say? But ultimately, like, he's like the new unlocked character on our channel. So if he doesn't start his YouTube channel, you'll always see him in our channel.
Special occasions.
As we continue to make vlogs together. I know you guys saw the taco series that we started. Thank you guys for all the support. We'll continue to do that. And any last words? Nothing?
No, not that I can think of at the moment.
Well, I hope you guys enjoy this little vlog. I know we don't usually do this, but it's always nice to sit down and I guess for you guys to get to know us a little better and hear our experiences ever since we came back to Mexico and what it's been like since we got back and started living here and getting integrated into the culture of our beautiful country. So we'll catch you guys on the next video, the next taco series that we do. Stay tuned for that because we're gonna go to a very popular place to try some tacos. So peace. We'll see you on the next one.